What's up guys, Mad Customs here. Welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to show you guys how to do a basic weathering paint job on an action figure, how to make them look dirty, have little battle damage. And what I'm going to use as the example is this 1000 Toys Master Chief figure. Now this is a great figure, but he is a little bit too clean for my liking. He looks factory fresh, and in the game in Halo Infinite he definitely is a lot more rough around the edges, has a lot more dirt, looks like he's been through it. So I wanted to replicate that with this figure. But before we jump into that, I did realize there's some black details throughout the figure that they didn't paint. Like for example, these two pieces right here should be black. So I'm gonna go ahead and paint those in before I dirty him up. I'm gonna do that off camera because that's not what you guys are here for. Okie dokie, I got all those missing details painted in. It was just black and then a black metallic color. Like right here, that's a black metallic that was missing. But then I realized there's quite a bit black detail missing on the elbows and then the thighs right here. They're supposed to be part of the undersuit. And it's kind of interesting. They weren't painted on this figure, which is pretty high end, but they were painted on the Jazzwares ones, which are far cheaper. So that's kind of interesting. But I painted all those in. Also some areas on the waist piece. And then like I said, here along the thigh, nothing too crazy. And then on the helmet, this area right here was all green and it was supposed to be a metallic black. So I painted that in. And then I also painted these pieces right here silver. They were originally mostly black for some reason, but in game they're a silver color. So yeah, nothing too crazy, but it definitely makes a difference. I really would have loved to add a grapple shot to his forearm, but that's not a huge deal. So now we're gonna move on to the first step of weathering. And I like to do the silver dry brush first because the way I think about it is like, for Master Chief here, as he's like moving around, he gets scuffed up first. Like he'll have some little paint chipping here and there, and then over time, like dust will build up and dirt, and that's where I do the wash to simulate that. So that's why I like to do the silver dry brush first. And it's pretty basic. All you're gonna want is some silver paint. I'm using this Model Air silver paint, and what I'm gonna use to apply it is this makeup brush right here. I've, for whatever reason, found that makeup brushes work a lot better than normal brushes, in my opinion. Maybe that's just me, but that's what I'm gonna use. And I have this kind of like flat tip brush that I'm gonna use. You don't really wanna use one of these for smaller areas because you don't wanna kind of get a little messy and get it on the black undersuit areas because that just wouldn't make sense. So all you're gonna wanna do is, I've got some silver paint right here. You're gonna wanna wipe some on the brush and then take a paper towel and just brush it until it looks like there's no silver left on the brush. And then let's use I'll just go ahead and put it on the shoulder pad right here, but you're just gonna wanna lightly brush it on the high areas. You don't wanna, like I said, get too carried away with it, but you get the idea. Make sure it doesn't get on any of the black areas. Just make sure it's on the green. And as you can see, that simulates a really nice worn effect. So you just want to keep doing that throughout the figure. I would have taken him apart if I could have, but he's mostly not PVC, ABS plastic. He's not like a softer plastic, so you can't really heat him up and pop him apart like most figures. So you're just gonna have to have a gentle hand and make sure you only get the silver on the green parts. So I'm just gonna keep on doing this, and yeah. Okay, sorry if that was kind of out of focus at some points, but here you go. Here is the arm all finished, and as you can see, like, that detail really just brings it to life. That silver, you don't want to overdo it, but just the right amount. When the light catches it, it makes a huge difference. So yeah, I even got it right here on the hand right there. So I'm just gonna keep on doing that on all of the green armor pieces, obviously. I'm not gonna film all of it because I don't wanna waste y'all's time, and it's pretty rinse and repeat. So I'm gonna go ahead and finish dry brushing the rest of his armor. Okay, so all of the green parts have the dry brush on them. As you can see, it looks pretty fantastic. It really brought out all the detail on the edges and stuff. And so I honestly wouldn't blame you if you wanted to just keep it like this, but I'm gonna take it to the next step and apply the black wash. So what I'm gonna be using is this Vallejo Wash FX. It's just a black. And what I'm going to use to apply it is this makeup brush. And then I'm also going to have kind of like, I don't know, on standby, a thinner brush right here. And what that is for is to make sure it gets into all of the nook and crannies on the armor. So I'm gonna go ahead and just do a little bit on the shoulder pad real quick as an example. So just poured some right here, get it on the brush, and then you got the figure right here, and just kind of sponge it on there. Make sure you get it into the recessed areas if you can, because if you can get it all done with just one brush, that's always fantastic. But yeah, and you don't want to like brush it, you want to dab it, because if you do brushes, then it looks like there's streaks and it just doesn't look natural. But if you just dab it on, it'll look a lot more natural. And so like that's kind of what we have. And you're just, once it dries, it'll look a lot better. So I'm gonna just wait for it to dry and show you what the results look like. Okay, so here's what the whole arm looks like after the wash is essentially dried. It has a little bit more of a flat finish. And so once you're at this point, you're gonna wanna take a wipe and basically wipe down anywhere you applied the wash. And the wash will stay in the recessed areas where there's detail and stuff, and it'll look really natural because that's where dirt and grime would accumulate in real life. So I'm gonna go ahead and apply the wash to the rest of the figure, and we'll go from there. Okay, so I applied the wash over the entire figure. I did get ahead of myself a little bit and already started wiping off some of it, but I just wanted to see how it looked. But I'll give you guys a little demo because I didn't wipe off the entire figure. But let's see, where's a dirty spot? Okay, so like right here on the helmet, it's pretty dark, but just wipe that off like so. And as you can see, let's get it in the light, it's still, the wash is right there in the crevices, the panel lines, and it brings out that silver dry brush that we did earlier. So it's like the perfect balance. But yeah, you can see like I already wiped off this leg, but that looks really, really great. So you're just gonna wanna do that to the entire figure. Just wipe off basically the entire thing, and the paint will just naturally stay in the recessed areas, and that's exactly where we want it to be. So I'm just gonna keep wiping it off and I will show you the final results. Alrighty, I finished wiping off all the excess black wash, and then I added a little bit more dry brushing to the knee pads because I thought they needed a little bit more scuffs on them. But this is the finished result, and I could not be happier. The detail is just insane. Like the wash and all the crevices, just bringing out that detail, and then the silver dry brush highlighting all of these sharp angles on the armor is just incredible. Like as the light hits it, more and more just pops out at you, and it's just a feast for the eyes. So it's crazy because it's such a simple method, but it can take any figure, no matter how expensive it is, into looking like $1 million bucks. So I've seen people use this method on like the cheap Jazzwares, Halo figures, and they look really great. So if you don't have this guy, go ahead and do it on those figures, or even apply this to some other figure. It doesn't even have to be Halo. It would look great on some Iron Man figures, some G.I. Joes, basically any figure or vehicle that has like armor or metal parts. It'll just bring it to life. And it can even be applied to different areas of customizing, like hair detail. Like let's say if someone has black hair, and so you get a dark navy blue or brown paint and just dry brush that on top of the black, it'll bring out all that detail. Same thing goes for a wash. There's different colors of washes you can buy, and just depending on the base color of what you're working on, it can really just bring out all that detail. So just run with it. Like this is just a simple tutorial, and there's so many different ways you can apply it. But yeah, before I close here, here's a look at the assault rifle. Just all that silver dry brushing really brought this thing to life, especially with the gray. And then here's the Bulldog shotgun. Also looks pretty solid. I did all the hands as well, but that's not super exciting. But yeah, if this was a help to you, please like, comment, subscribe, and share. Follow me on TikTok, Instagram, and whatnot, and I will catch you in the next one.